Hello and welcome back to the Just Show Up show. Today we're talking about a very important topic. The topic is manifestation, and it's one of my favorite things, but I would definitely say it's one of the hardest to talk about because I hate the word opinion, but my opinion on it, or let's say my outlook about it, has changed so much. So I first heard the word manifestation probably, I'd say probably like 4 or 5 years ago. And I would say that one of my first kind of entry points into this whole, how do we call it? Because I would say that I would separate spiritual stuff into like, what's funny? Like, I don't think of Buddhism, Taoism, Hinduism as a religion. Like, I just don't think of them as a religion. And unfortunately, I'm not familiar enough with Islam and the Sufi tradition, but from what I understand, like the Sufi tradition is very close to, so it's hard to say. You see, like, because like, religion is something that functions. You see, like the concepts are so abstract sometimes. Like, my language doesn't kind of want to cooperate, and I just see them as like geometric kind of graph representations, or like, it's just funny. So basically what I want to say is that religion has almost like two components in it, like one big chunk of it is digestible, and it's for the masses, and it's whatever they project onto it, like, people can do the most hateful things in the name of religion, and that's just remarkable. Or I've recently actually had a personal experience with someone telling me to put clothes on and like kind of shaming me, almost cornering me into doing something. And it was just so, and this is something that even like when I was in, I think in, was it Thailand or Bali or something like that, I think I saw this gigantic what are they called, the road signs, like where they have the advertisements on them, and one of them was this gigantic Buddhist sign that said like something like along the lines of like, Buddha would not be happy to see people putting him as decoration in their house. And like whenever you go to these like religious places and they say like you have to cover your shoulders, like even in Venice when you go to the cathedrals, I remember taking pictures of these things and just always blew my mind. Like they would have all of these pictures saying like you're not allowed to have shorts, and you're not allowed to, so I think you are allowed to wear a t-shirt, but not one that ends like this. And that just always blew my mind, because it's like so hot, everybody's wearing these clothes. Like, if you expect people to cover up in summer, like we're just all gonna be like a sweaty, stinky soup in summer. Like, it just makes no sense to me. But anyways, I know for sure, because they're my buddies, that none of these, like Jesus, Muhammad, whatever, Buddha, would give two flying fucks about whether someone is wearing a particular type of clothing or not. That being said, so my point was that there's this whole like popular side of religion, but all the religious traditions, they have their real hardcore spiritual practices that lead to enlightenment. and all of them have that in common. So what I started saying and got really carried off is that when I think of manifestation, I mean sometimes, so when I say spiritual practices, I mean things that are part of the great big religions, such as meditation, you know, contemplation, reading, you know, spiritual texts, you know, like kind of, I feel like putting the concepts and the framework into your head so that you kind of have like a blueprint, a roadmap for your spiritual journey, so that you know what's going on, you know, in your spiritual experience and your learning. Because that's what all of us are doing here. We're all on planet Earth to learn. And so I had been in the spiritual tradition. So when I was about 20 years old, that was through my ex-husband, who introduced me. I mean, I knew already a little bit about, I knew about the I Ching. I knew a little bit about the Vedas, a little bit about Hinduism, a little bit about meditation, Buddha, all of that stuff right around the time when I was 16. That's when I started learning about these things. Then when I met my ex, that was around the time when I was 20, and him being Taiwanese, he knew a lot. That was kind of like his tradition, like Taoism, Buddhism, and to some extent there is a folk component to it as well. So a lot about like animism and the spirit world, which at that time I didn't quite believe in that. Let's say it that way. I was like, that's curious, but like that's a stretch for me. And then the other background obviously is my Catholic background. That was my first introduction to God. And I just remember being young and just not understanding it. Like there was just so much stuff in there that just didn't make sense at all. And when I would ask my parents, they gave really like dumb answers, basically. Like they they were not the best messengers, let's say it that way. Like it just made even less sense after I would ask them. So I just always felt like, I always felt curious, but I didn't know how to put it together. And maybe why we're making this video today is that ever since I started coaching, I just felt that one of the biggest reasons why people have so many problems in their lives is that there's a lack of spiritual connection. And I definitely feel that in my own journey, what really helped me heal and sort of get more centered and more aligned with my path, because that's the most important thing. If you're not aligned with your path, you are going to be, life is just gonna feel miserable. Life is just gonna feel difficult. Life is gonna feel disappointing. I mean, I remember, like now it's coming back to me, how I felt when I was in it. I mean, my teenage years, I'd say around the time when I was 12, something like that, I was really angry, really disappointed at life, and I still had hope. So I thought, because my experience at home was just so challenging on a daily basis, well, anyways, it doesn't matter anymore. I was being beaten almost daily, and it was just a psychological warfare, basically. Um, so I felt it was really, really hard, but at the same time, I always had hope. I always had hope, like, okay, maybe, you know, when I'm 18, I get to like leave my home and I can, you know, have my own life and be whatever way I want to be, do whatever I want to do. I just imagined it like, I mean, that's kind of how I kept myself alive, was dreaming about what life would be like after I'm 18, after I'm finally my own person and like free to do whatever I want. And I think I dreamt up some like incredible vision of, I have no idea how I thought I would be making money. I have no idea. I mean, it was just like a pure dream vision. And now I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think I probably just imagined like a lot of adventure, you know, like whatever I'd see on TV or in movies or whatever. I just created this world of like excitement and exploration and adventure, and like I'm gonna meet all kinds of people. And I mean, the other part that fed into that is that when I was little, like my parents, they gave me an atlas and I saw all of these pictures. So that brings us to manifestation. Actually, this is fun. I'd see all these pictures because I was trying to think of like, do I have a good manifestation example? And I think this is spot on. This is the best one, actually. And you see, like, the reason why it worked is because it makes me so happy just thinking about it. Like, manifestation, when it really, really works, it's just pure joy. It's just your pure happiness, and it's definitely something I feel like that was in you when you were little already. So for me, when I was little, what did I love doing? I loved drawing, I loved being in nature, I loved introspection. I really liked kind of processing the world and like people and myself, and just the inner experience was always the most interesting thing to me. Like the mind, like the fact that we have this human experience where you're like watching your own life as a movie, basically. That just always blew my mind. So they gave me this atlas and I saw all of these pictures of places all over the world. So I don't know what was in it, like USA, and they have the funniest pictures. Like the fact that they thought that that image, like each country would have like 5 images, and the fact that they thought that those images were representative of the country just blows my mind. Because like later on I visited some of these places and they're nothing like those pictures, which is just mind-blowing that they could, you know, send out such wrong messages to little impressionable children. Like, it's just wrong. But I remember going through the picture as a kid and just looking at all of these places and thinking to myself, I want to go there. I want to see all these places. And after I became an adult and it actually happened, mostly to, obviously I haven't gone to all of them, but I did kind of manifest travel. And I was not, like, my family is poor, basically. Like, you know, if I had been rational and if I had been thinking about, you know, oh my god, I want to, and this is the case for so many people always think like, oh, travel is so expensive. Like, yes, of course I want to travel the world, but it's so expensive, I can't do it. That brings us to manifestation, because I think the process of manifestation is just somehow the practice of disabling that rational side of your mind that creates a model of how things can happen. So it's like your heart knows for sure that you want to travel, but then if you allow your rational mind to come in and discuss that possibility, the rational mind will say like, oh yes, of course, but like, I mean, come on, like each trip costs at least $2,000 and like I don't have it, and you know, it's going to create all kinds of stories about what is possible. So your mind, if you, let's say you're in a situation where you don't have a lot of money, there's no possibilities in your reality of, you know, money coming in from anywhere else other than your job, let's say, and you're just making like $2,000 and you need, let's say, 1,900 to live. And that, so if that's your mind, if that's your situation, your mind will just come in and say, well, clearly that's not possible, right? This is not going to happen. Like, stop thinking about it. And that's how we have all these people who are walking around like zombies, you know, completely having forgotten what they dream about. And that's why, in a way, that's why talking about manifestation is important. And yesterday actually I had a really interesting conversation with a new friend of mine, Craig, and we came to this really interesting question about coaching people. Because in coaching, in a way, there are three categories. One is people who want to overcome things, people who already know what they want to, let's say they've had, you know, something they've been working on, but they just want to like finish it, accomplish it. They would like some help of someone who's going to keep them accountable and make sure that they don't give up as they're going along the process of accomplishing that thing. And then there's a third category, which is create. And that category, we were wondering yesterday, like how many people are actually in that category, and can you take someone who in the Maslow hierarchy of needs might be somewhere down at survival, and then self-actualization is somewhere further up the hierarchy, and is it possible to go down to the survival level and have people, while they are at survival level, dream up something and actually allow themselves? Because the reason why we don't allow ourselves to dream even, and this is very sad because dream is free, but it's because of that fear of disappointment. You know, like when you look at your dreams and then you look back at your real life, you feel like, oh, you know, this is so disappointing, or you stop kind of appreciating what you have as soon as you compare it to, you know, like if I compare my existence to my favorite Cardi B, she's like my spirit animal, then of course, you know, like I'm not gonna be happy with my, you know, sunny side up eggs anymore. So I think that's like a really interesting philosophical question to see, you know, why don't we allow ourselves to dream? So that's the first one. Why don't we allow ourselves to dream? And then the second one is, you know, why do we live in a world where it's so mandatory to think of everything in a rational way? It's like my experience at least has been like, maybe I'm living in some kind of alternate parallel universe where everybody is like this, you know, and like the real reality of it is that, you know, and that experience is also based off the past. But what I'm sensing now is that we are collectively going through a mass awakening. So people that you would have assumed in the past would not be open to these kind of ideas are waking up as we speak. Like this information is cross-pollinating the entire planet, if cross-pollinating is even the right word in this case. But I just think it's also fascinating. But so that was a good example actually for manifestation. I don't know if I've finished it all the way or not, but maybe another side story to that is that, so at the time, imagine. So this is like little me, because that's the other thing that we do in this. That's what I was saying at the beginning. So there's like spiritual kind of traditions that are more kind of pure and clear, and then the whole new agey stuff is really creative, you know. And I think that new age has a kind of bad reputation in a way, and like when people, regular people who are not into spirituality, when they say, oh, new age or hippie, what they think of is just someone who's like so cut off from reality and can't speak in logical language anymore. But yeah, there are so many good things, I think personally. Like what I really like from this tradition, from the new agey tradition, is the whole idea of limiting beliefs, of well, now I'm also thinking, you know, like the kind of third pillar in a way is also psychology. So you have like spiritual tradition, psychology, and then you have on the other side new agey stuff that is very experimental and very kind of unbased in any tradition in many ways. My battery's running out. Okay, we are back. I'm sorry that this is maybe a little bit all over the place, but I'm almost downloading this. I am receiving this system as we speak, and it's a really good way to kind of manage to explain it. So as I've kind of discovered this 3-branch system that we have, I think the reason why manifestation, that keyword, is getting so many, because just now as I was fiddling around with this battery, I had this image where I saw that the entryway to so many people into spirituality and into even, you know, like daring to dream or daring to connect to something greater than themselves and to kind of realize unity, you know, is this word manifestation. And basically what manifestation does is, well, the message of manifestation is you create your own reality. And that is something that really brings people to look at their experience and to see what part they're playing in the creation of their external reality. And then that in itself is another entry into the real spiritual experience, which is that you are a creator, you're creating everything and everyone else and your world, but at the same time other people are creating their reality, and then above us is in a way above us, or like we are probably inside the creator. Like that's the thing, that's the whole big great grand question of all the religions and spirituality and new age, is like what is this thing, you know, like what is reality, like what are we actually dealing with in here? And as soon as you start kind of running your own experiments, your whole perception of reality and what is possible, what is not possible, starts to really change. And you start to, I mean, obviously, like in the first run of experiments with manifestation, like you try to manifest something and you actually see it reflected in your reality, it just kind of shows you, oh, okay, well, wait a second, like if I have some kind of power over what's going on, am I then creating my experience? And if I'm creating my experience, then that brings up a whole other question, which is, you know, people ask, can I manifest negative things? Like, yes. And our minds are composed of positive thoughts and really negative thoughts. And for me, recently in my own growth experience, I realized that I've never quite been able to see the negative side of things that I have in me. So once we begin to realize that we have power and we have control over our system. And that's why manifestation is such a great practice, because you think of something, you manifest it, it becomes a confirmation of that this actually works, you know. So then you start to kind of familiarize yourself with that way of operating, with that way of being in the world, because it's a completely different way of being in the world when you don't think in a super rational probability way. Because usually when we think in that way, we think of only like one possibility. These are my conditions now, they're very unlikely to change, and we have all of these models of probabilities of how things can go. And the more we can kind of drift away from that way of thinking, the more possibilities actually open up. And I had a friend actually recently say that that's scary in a way, and I'm like, what is scary about that? I mean, I understand that it's scary because in a way you're playing with your mind. You start to play with your mind, and that's scary for people. People are scared of exploring their mind because I think most likely like everybody's scared of going crazy, and that's a valid concern. That's a valid concern. And in my experience of going to, for example, like when I went to do ayahuasca, it is a very intense journey into your mind, and not just your mind, but also into the, like in my experience, into the cosmos, into God, into divine beings. I mean, I had encounters with Jesus, you know. I mean, that's another thing that is just so remarkable about having a spiritual experience, and that's why I really deeply recommend experimenting with psychedelics and going on these long meditation journeys. Like, that is just so invaluable, to go deep into your mind and to really get to know yourself, to get to know, okay, you know, like I'm not only that person that I see in my daily life, you know, I'm not only my likes and dislikes and my thoughts and, you know, what I did, what I said, what I want, what I don't want. I'm not only these things, I'm actually more than that. And when you are in these deep meditative experiences or in a psychedelic journey where you have visions and experiences in that realm, I believe it's a dissolving process. So we might start off with just trying to manifest, you know, and the beautiful learning process of manifestation is that you think of what you want. Now I was just trying to think of like, okay, what do people try to manifest? Like, you know, like usually I think it kind of starts out with like material objects or a person, like, you know, lots of money and love, because that's how we think we're gonna be happy. But I think the other thing that we tend to forget is that we're here on a mission and we're here for a purpose, and we're here to learn. I believe that really what's going on planet Earth with life, with human life, with so many human lives living, is that all of us are here to learn, and the real end goal lesson, the graduation lesson, is that we learn that we are part of God and we are unity. So all of our experiences that are happening on planet Earth in our human lives are just kind of I mean, lessons in, you know, like having an individual experience, having a separate self that wants things and that is in competition with the outside world, and that is just figuring out, you know, like, what am I actually really doing? Like, that's one thing that I found always so fascinating, is that I just feel like most people don't really ask themselves, like, what is life? Like, everybody has a life, everybody is living a life, but it's like, what is this life? Like, what are you actually doing? You know, is it really just kind of, you know, surviving and like, you know, figuring out how you're gonna make money, then make that money, then save that money, then buy a house, and like in the process of it have a relationship and like do something? Like, is that really it, you know? And then like once we start kind of having adventures that are not part of that basic package in a way, I think it starts really opening up the question of, whoa, like what is this thing actually, you know? And I always was very curious to see, I mean, that's why I love meeting other people, because I love to see other people's experiences. Like, okay, wow, like I had a life that was given to me, and like these are my conditions and these are my possibilities, but other people, they have different conditions and different possibilities. And that just always kind of I'm just endlessly curious about this thing that we call human experience, and how at different levels of awareness and different levels of knowledge you see reality completely differently. And I mean, now maybe a book recommendation time, 10 Terrains of Consciousness. I mean, that is my Bible, because it explains, it just makes it so much easier to understand the differences in our experiences, you know, and why there are certain people that we can communicate with and why there are other people that where it's just not a match at all. And that's where it kind of goes back into this model of like, okay, we're here, it's a learning model, it's a training ground in a way. And you in a way, you have classmates, you have people that you resonate with, where you're like here together to help each other out and like learn lessons. And then I believe what happens is that the lessons get fed back somehow energetically into higher intelligence, and then that knowledge gets fed back right into the other people who are learning, who are still learning. If that makes any sense, goodness. But those are the kind of thoughts that I think about all day long. And I feel like now with this channel, I am trying to somehow, you know, put my experience into words and feed it back, you know, in a way that maybe will be useful to someone, because we are in a mass awakening, and it's a beautiful time. It's a really, really beautiful time. As much as, you know, like when we look at the news, it might seem like we're living in a crazy time, but it's just a time where I think everything is coming to the surface, and contrast is increasing, but contrast is increasing for us to learn better, learn faster, perhaps, and move into the better future. I see the future as, I have these visions of like, I mean, I don't know when it's gonna happen. It could happen, you know, with the speed of light. It could change very fast, because change is really accelerating. But I just see that the ultimate place where we're going, the ultimate version of, you know, human civilization, whatever the hell that means, is that, like, I see all of us just like living in this beautiful community, and like all of us enlightened, you know, like all of us just living an experience of like complete unity and harmony, and like there's no more misunderstanding. Probably I see us developing psychic gifts and, you know, like telepathy. We're not gonna misunderstand each other anymore, and all of us will be so spiritually developed that our hearts will be so wide open and full of love, because that's the experience that I had in my ayahuasca journey. I felt so much love. Like, it's just, inexplicable. Like my heart was just on fire, like exploding with like light and intense amounts of love. And that's when I saw the image of Jesus, and it was like, and for some reason recently I've been thinking a lot about Jesus and about his story, and you know, just the amount of haters he had, the amount of like ignorance that he had to deal with, you know, and he could be there and say like, I love you and I come to you with love. And it's people who are stuck in duality and stuck in that kind of survival place that just couldn't hear anything. I mean, like, that's just, that must be so hard. I've been really meditating on that, like how hard that must be. But that's to say how much love a person like Jesus had in him, and that is where we're going towards. We're going to a place where, because now our capacity for love is used only like a tiny fraction, like only like 10% of our capacity for love, because we're always fighting the outside world, you know, like we think that like the other person is not your friend. We think like, oh, I need to protect myself, you know, and like this is my circle, these are my friends, this is my family, and everyone on the outside is like stranger in danger. But it's not going to be like that in the future. And I think what's happening now is that so many of us are waking up to collaboration, to just opening our hearts. And I think really like that's the most important thing that we need to do and we need to practice. And I still really need to practice this on a daily basis. On a daily basis, I feel my heart when it's closing up. I feel it when it's not open. I feel fear. I feel my entire shadow. And it's a practice. Like, that's the spiritual practice. The more you practice, the more aware you become of everything. And like, it's so ironic that when we first start our spiritual journey, we think like, oh yes, I'm gonna get enlightened, and after I get enlightened, everything's gonna be beautiful. And generally, yes, there is a greater sense of joy and a greater sense of peace and a sense of like knowing that everything is perfect, everything is in place. But to really embody that and to really know 100% what that really means in practice, that is, I'm still learning so much. I'm still learning so much on a daily basis, and I know that the ultimate goal is really to embody 100% of love. And me myself now, oh my god, I know I'm still like far away from that. I'm still far away from that. And I also, honestly, I don't even know if that's possible on planet Earth at this point now. You know, that's why we need a collective awakening. That's why we need everyone to wake up to unity, so that we can, you know, all of us be vibrating at a frequency of love and create a safer environment, you know, because like every time when we come with an open heart and we don't get met with love, we get scarred, we get hurt, right? So if we could collectively create a experience where we're always met with love, and you know, where it's safe to be that way, that's the ultimate kind of end society that we're in. And I see it with so much you know, like not technology in the sense of like hard metal, but technology that is super ecological, like super high intelligence, but it's nature intelligence. And I have no idea what that looks like. It's super vague, super abstract, but that's what gives me peace. Like, I know for sure we're going in that direction. So I don't know, I feel like this was not too bad. I don't know if I really kind of explained manifestation. I feel like this video is so long. So maybe I'll just end it here for now, and then we'll see. Like, everybody's, maybe I don't need to say anymore, you know, because I feel like the keyword is out there. Whoever wants to engage with it will engage with it, and that's also the beauty of this experience, is that all of the synchronicities and, you know, things that support your learning journey come to you directly. You don't need to, what you want wants you to, you know, what you want to become is also attracting you to it from the other end, because we created all of it. It's just so trippy. Oh my god, it's just so trippy when you really start to think about it. It's the trippiest thing. Like, this experience is just the trippiest thing there is. And it's just so much fun. This was so much fun to share this with you, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have something to share about it, please comment down below. And yeah, if you want to contact me, the usual drill. If you want to contact me or you want to coach with me, I'll link my website down below, and I'll see you again next week. And a little announcement that I have to make this week is that I am starting a interview series that's somehow going to become part of the channel as well, because I've been meeting some really, really remarkable people, and I just feel like it's more fun together. I've been feeling really called to collaborate more and do things together with other people, because it's just so much more fun, and there's so much more learning that happens that way. So we'll be doing that probably next week, I think. So look forward to that, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.